Hello everybody, my name's Big Citrus and let's get into it. So today I guess we're trying something a little new out on the channel, something that has been requested a lot, and today we're going to be looking at the first ever top 5 on the channel, the top 5 worst metas in Apex Legends history. Now for those of you who don't know what a meta is, how did you click on this video? How did you get here? You're very strange. A meta in a video game is basically the most popular characters or weapons or armor or abilities or things like that are by far the best options to be used. But a lot of the times when there is a forced meta in Apex Legends, it's usually bad, and today we are going to be looking at the absolute worst among them. Obviously, this is just my opinion, and a lot of people may or may not disagree, or they may entirely agree, but you know, genuinely leave your lists and comments down below so I can actually, you know, read them and get your guys' thoughts. I'm not going to waste any more of your time. Here are the top 5 worst metas in Apex Legends. This is going to be a controversial list, I feel. Really quickly, let me just say, I am mostly going to be looking at the legend metas for each season and kind of which one was the worst. Now, reminder, some of these metas went on for way longer than others, but I'm just going to be talking about the very worst points of them. Starting off, and this is a really controversial way to start this, it's going to be the current meta. I genuinely mean that. I actually think Apex is in a very good spot balance-wise right at this moment. Maggie and Ash have come out, and they are both good characters with a lot of uses in a lot of specific situations that make them very strong. I wouldn't say that either of them are like overpowered, and I really like that. Before them it was Seer, and you know what, we'll save Seer for later. But in Season 9 we got Valkyrie. Right now, Valkyrie almost feels like an essential pick, almost more essential than Gibraltar. There is no better character for rotating in the entirety of Apex right now. With how quick her ultimate charges and how easy it is to use, you can literally transport your entire team across the map from almost any location wherever you want. There are ways to punish players who try to do this in stupid situations, but if you do have Gibby on your team, it is nigh impossible. Just throw a bubble and you're good. It's definitely not the worst meta, hence why it's only number 5, but I feel like if other rotation characters, you know, were buffed maybe a little bit, or perhaps Valkyrie was just nerfed, and maybe we made hard rotates and hard resets a thing of the past in Apex, perhaps the game would be in a perfect state. Who is to say? This is probably a pick that people thought was going to be higher on the list, but I'm going to try and defend at least a little bit, and that is the Revtane meta, the Revenant and Octane meta. This was a somewhat short-lived meta in which Revenant and any character who gave you a lot of potential to push teams hard and fast and get out quickly, but mostly Octane. Before certain nerfs, you wouldn't necessarily know when a Revenant team had popped a totem. Now there are a lot more audio cues and things like that. You could pop a Revenant totem from far away, Octane jump pad on the team, dog water on them, maybe down 1 or 2 players, go back to the totem, re-jump pad, and absolutely poop on them. The only real thing that was problematic with this strategy was if you were the Revtane team, things that could be problematic for you is if you get third-partied or you're getting sniped from behind or things like that. Overall, this was a very safe and aggressive strategy. It didn't always work for teams who did it, but when you could do it, oh my god, it was the most annoying thing in the world. And it really felt like a lot of the times this happened to you, teams who just did it were just bad. Randomly, a squad of 3 shadows could just come out of nowhere and just dog poo on you and you wouldn't even know what happened. This is going to be seen as a bit vague, but just hear me out on this one. This is going to be the Lifeline meta. Now, if you know the history of Apex Legends, you would know for a long time Lifeline was very good. This whole Lifeline meta actually covers a few points of Apex's history. None of them are individually as horrible as our top 2 spots, so that's why it's only number 3. But there were a lot of points where Lifeline was very strong. Of course, when the game came out, she had the fast heal, which was insane, and the health drone was way better, and you could live for way longer outside of zone than you probably even could now with heat shield. It made like playing Lifeline, if you were a decent player with good movement, just an automatic advantage, especially when B-hopping heals was in the game. Of course, then we get to the Lifeline auto-res shield, which did last way too long. This was so oppressive and made downing people feel like it almost didn't matter unless you could snipe and insta-thirst them, because in the back of your mind, you know that a Lifeline's around the corner and is just gonna tap them, and they're perfectly safe from all bodily harm ever again. Lifeline is now in a horrible spot and is a really bad, not good pick. I genuinely do think she deserves a buff, but as long as we never see this at Apex ever again, I'll be very happy. And at the number 2 spot, this is probably my most controversial pick on the entire list, although a lot of people won't have much to say about it because it was so long ago, and that was the Wattson meta. I hear a lot of you new players saying, what? A Wattson meta? When was that? Well, that would take us all the way back to when Wattson first dropped back in Season 2. This might be more of a personal choice, but I genuinely hated the Wattson meta, and I was super in Apex when it first came out and throughout Season 1. But when Wattson dropped, and with disruptor rounds being in the game, shields felt more essential than ever. Considering the fact that the alternator was basically a must-user throw weapon at this time, from even long range, if you got shot by an alternator with a disruptor round, it felt like almost your entire shield would be gone. Wattson's ult is here for that though. It could not be destroyed, it recharges shields at a decent rate. Yes, Wattson's old ultimate could still be instantly charged by ultimate accelerants and she could hold 2 of them, but yeah, let's just bring this up again. It still did all the same things it does now, but it could still destroy all ordnance, and yes, you heard that right, it could not be destroyed. It felt like grenades basically got taken out of the game when Season 2 dropped, and I'm pretty sure at this time, I'll have to fact check this, you could still carry 2 grenades in slot, a la how Fuse works nowadays. So nade spam was still very prominent against teams who didn't have a Wattson, for example. They could just get deleted by a team carrying nothing but arc stars in their inventory. So Wattson felt like a must-have character. The synopsis of how every final ring and good lobbies went was basically just teams putting down Wattson ults and kind of hugging a wall or some sort of bunker area and kind of just waiting for the ring to close in to fight. That might sound similar to how Apex is played nowadays, but trust me, in this situation, it was way worse. Pushing a team who had a Wattson ult on them felt like a death sentence. Also, this was by far the worst character and weapon meta Apex ever had. A lot of guns just felt straight up bad, including the brand new care package L-Star. If you weren't a full light ammo weapon, a wingman, or a peacekeeper, it really felt like there was no place for you in the weapon meta. This felt like by far the most stale and least varied meta we had ever had in the entirety of Apex, but it definitely wasn't the most annoying and frustrating. I only have one honorable mention for today, and this might just be a really personal thing for me, but it's basically any meta where Caustic has been strong. There were some points around Season 6, 7, and 8 where Caustic was a very strong pick, but you know, he went back down for a bit. But then recently we had a huge problem where Caustic got buffed, and it kind of felt like Caustic was a must-have for winning fights in endgame. This really only plagued the top majority of ranked play and professional tournament play, but the pros quickly got sick of it, and Caustic was nerfed recently, which I think was a great change. Also, just Caustic in combination with Gibby, they just felt like they had so much health, and it felt like it was so hard to play against teams like that. It just wasn't fun, and I'm happy that it's not as strong as it used to be. Not the worst, though. There were counters to it, so I don't think it deserves a spot on this list. But at number 1, and remembering this meta honestly was the reason I decided to make this video, because it was so bad. An incredibly short-lived meta, but in my opinion, the worst state we have ever seen for Apex in terms of how it played was when Season 10 first dropped with the Rampage and the Seer meta. Holy shit. When Season 10 first dropped, there was tons of hype for the game. A lot of new players were coming to Apex from Warzone and other games, and Season 10 really was a huge debut. It launched with next to no server issues, which was rare for Respawn, but it also launched with this shit. Seer, when he first dropped, was by far the most oppressive, annoying, and unfair character in Apex Legends. He could take away your abilities, cancel your heals, scan you through walls for like 10 or 15 seconds, and just for no reason on top of that, do 10 damage to you. And this ability was not on an insanely long cooldown, and the range on it was ridiculous. If you were in Final Zone getting poked from other teams taking damage and there was a Seer nearby, you were fucked. Of course, early game, this was incredibly strong too when everyone's, you know, racing, trying to find a gun and some meds, and then this dude just preventing you from healing or using any abilities. His ultimate, while not insanely overpowered, was really annoying to play against. A good seer player who would place their ultimate in a spot where it couldn't be destroyed on top of their tactical ability usage felt like they were just rewarded with all of the enemy team inside of its movement, breathings, and thoughts forever. And of course, the passive. By today's standards, Seer's passive is not too fantastic, but it used to be so good. His heartbeat scanner was ridiculous. The range on it was insane. All he had to do was ADS, and he would immediately know if there were any enemies in that direction. It still kind of works like this today, but the range was way bigger back then. I remember how Seer's tactical worked in combination with his passive. It would pretty much show Seer exactly where someone was through walls, and then he would use that ability, and you would get cucked. It was really bad, then of course in combinations with the Rampage, which was just insane. It felt like a full auto G7 scout with no damage drop off, and it was a huge problem. And this only lasted for about a week or two, but the launch of Season 10 was so catastrophically bad that players who were brand new to the game were immediately quitting. To this day, I think this is the worst patch and meta Respawn has ever released, and I honestly don't think they can top that, but, you know, never say never, right? Leave a like and a comment. Please comment down below your list. I genuinely would like to read it and see if there's anything that I really was overlooking or missed. And of course, subscribe and join in the community Discord and Instagram and Twitter. And also, if you like white edgy boy rap music, I have this new song called Bamboozle about Mirage and just, you know, being a gig chat out right now. It's actually pretty good, some people have told me. I don't know, judge for yourself. Thank you guys. Really appreciate it. I've been Big Citrus, and have a damn good one.